If I asked you who runs the global economy, what would you say? Maybe you would say the President of the United States, maybe the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, or maybe, if you were cynical, you might say the Illuminati. But the truth is much stranger and much more terrifying. The modern global economy is not run by a person. It is not run by a government. It is run by a piece of software. There is a centralized artificial intelligence that lives on servers in Washington state. It monitors, manages, and moves an estimated $21 trillion of assets. That is more than the GDP of the United States. It is more than the GDP of every country on Earth except for the US and China. This system decides the price of your home. It decides the safety of your retirement fund. It decides which companies survive a recession and which ones die. It is owned by a single company, BlackRock, and while you have probably heard of their CEO, Larry Fink, you likely haven't heard of the true power behind the throne. The machine is called Aladdin, and today we are going to expose the code that secretly governs the world. We are going to look at how it started, how it took over the financial system, and why experts are terrified that a single glitch in this system could destroy the global economy overnight. This is the story of the AI that actually runs the world. To understand why this machine exists, we have to go back to the 1980s. We have to go back to a moment of total failure. Before he was the king of Wall Street, Larry Fink was a young, ambitious bond trader at a bank called First Boston. He was a star. He was generating millions of dollars in profits. He felt invincible. But in 1986, the market turned against him. He had made a massive bet on interest rates, relying on gut instinct and basic spreadsheets. He was wrong. Overnight, his department lost $100 million. In the 80s, that was a career-ending amount of money. Fink was humiliated. He was fired. But as he walked away from the wreckage of his career, he realized something important. He realized that Wall Street was flying blind. Traders were taking massive risks they didn't understand. They had no way to calculate what would happen if the market shifted in complex ways. They were gambling, not investing. So when Fink founded BlackRock in 1988, he had a radical idea. He wasn't going to build a normal bank. He was going to build a technology company. He hired a team of brilliant mathematicians and engineers. He gave them a single mission: build a system that can see into the future. He wanted a computer program that could look at a portfolio of bonds and calculate exactly what would happen in every possible worst-case scenario. They called the system Aladdin. It stood for Asset, Liability, Debt, and Derivative Investment Network. For the first 10 years, Aladdin was BlackRock's secret weapon. It was their crystal ball. While other banks crashed and burned because they couldn't see the risks coming, BlackRock navigated the storms perfectly. Aladdin told them when to sell. Aladdin told them when to buy. But Larry Fink is a smart businessman. He realized that while managing money is profitable, there was something even more valuable. He realized that if he could get everyone else to use his crystal ball, he wouldn't just be a player in the game, he would be the referee. This is where the story shifts from smart business to global domination. In the year 2000, BlackRock started selling access to Aladdin. They pitched it to other banks, insurance companies, and pension funds. The pitch was simple. The markets are too complex for humans to understand. You need our supercomputer to keep your money safe. And everyone bought it. Today, the list of clients who rely on Aladdin reads like a who's who of the global economy. Vanguard uses Aladdin. State Street uses Aladdin. The biggest insurance companies in the world use Aladdin. The massive government pension fund of Japan uses Aladdin. Even tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, and Alphabet have used BlackRock's systems to manage their massive corporate treasuries. Think about the implications of that. These companies are supposed to be competitors. Vanguard and BlackRock are rivals, but they are both looking at the market through the exact same lens. They are both using the exact same risk models. It is estimated that over $21 trillion sits on the Aladdin platform. Aladdin has become the operating system of capitalism. It is the Microsoft Windows of finance. You can try to run your financial institution without it, but you will be cut off from the rest of the world. But here's the problem. In biology, there is a concept called a monoculture. If you plant an entire country with the exact same type of potato and a disease comes along that targets that specific potato, the entire country starves. We have created a financial monoculture. Because every major bank is using Aladdin to define what risk looks like, they all start to behave the same way. If Aladdin's algorithm decides that tech stocks are risky today, it flashes a warning light on thousands of screens across Wall Street at the exact same time. Suddenly, trillions of dollars move in the same direction. Everyone sells at once. This creates a herd mentality that can turn a small market dip into a catastrophic crash. Aladdin doesn't just observe the market anymore. It is so big that it creates the market weather. If you think I'm exaggerating about how powerful this system is, let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the 2 times the US government admitted it couldn't survive without BlackRock. The first time was the 2008 financial crisis.
The worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
The Dow traders are standing there watching in amazement, and I don't blame them.
We're now down 43%.
Almost everything there.
Wall Street was collapsing. The US government needed to bail out the banks. But the government had a problem. The financial instruments that were failing, the mortgage-backed securities, were so complex that the Federal Reserve didn't even know what they were worth. They were flying blind. So who did they call? They called Larry Fink. The Federal Reserve hired BlackRock to analyze the toxic assets of Bear Stearns and AIG. They needed Aladdin to tell them the truth. But that was just the warm-up. Fast forward to March 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic begins. The global economy enters a freefall. The bond market, which is the plumbing of the entire financial system, starts to freeze up. If the bond market breaks, credit cards stop working, ATMs stop working, payrolls don't get met, civilization grinds to a halt. The chairman of the Federal Reserve needed to inject trillions of dollars into the system to save it. But again, he didn't have the technology to do it fast enough. So, for the second time, they called BlackRock. The US government effectively outsourced the rescue of the American economy to a private company. They gave BlackRock the contract to buy corporate bonds and stabilize the market. Think about the conflict of interest here. BlackRock owns shares in almost every major corporation, and now the government hired BlackRock to decide which corporate bonds to buy with taxpayer money to save the economy. For a few critical months in 2020, you could argue that Aladdin was the most powerful entity on Earth. It was keeping the patient alive. So how does it actually work? What is happening inside those server farms? Aladdin uses a process called Monte Carlo simulations. Imagine a massive digital map of the world, but instead of cities and roads, this map is made of stocks, bonds, currencies, and loans. It is a digital twin of the global economy. Every single day, Aladdin runs thousands of scenarios on this digital twin. It asks, what happens to your portfolio if inflation hits 8%? What happens if a war starts in the Middle East? What happens if a new virus appears in Asia? It crunches 50 years of historical data to predict the future. But recently, Aladdin has started doing something else. It has started monitoring sustainability. This is where the controversy about ESG comes from, environmental, social, and governance scores. Because Aladdin monitors risk, it has decided that things like climate change or lack of diversity are financial risks. So Aladdin gives companies a score. If a company is not green enough, Aladdin marks them as high risk. Because $21 trillion of money is managed by Aladdin, if the system marks a company as high risk, that company gets cut off from investment. Their stock price drops. They can't get loans. This is why CEOs across America are so obsessed with ESG scores. They aren't trying to save the polar bears. They are trying to please the algorithm.
Aladdin is effectively forcing companies to adopt social policies, not through laws or voting, but through the brute force of capital. This brings us to the final and most frightening question. What happens if Aladdin breaks? We have centralized the brain of the global economy into a single piece of software, controlled by a single private company. In cybersecurity, this is called a single point of failure. If a hacker managed to penetrate Aladdin and alter the data, or if a rogue line of code caused the model to miscalculate risk, the consequences would be unimaginable. Imagine if Aladdin mistakenly signaled that the US dollar was collapsing. Within seconds, algorithms across the world would dump the dollar. Banks would stop lending, pension funds would panic. The entire financial system could evaporate before a human being even had time to pick up the phone. We have built a machine to eliminate fear. We built it to control the chaos of the market. But in doing so, we have handed the keys of our civilization to a black box that nobody outside of BlackRock truly understands. Larry Fink might...
Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, The Undercurrents, and share our video to promote it.